giving myself a big pat on the back because I did some, I put some false eyelashes on today and didn't have no trouble at all. First try. Just kidding. Anyways, so where I left off last time is my aunt didn't want me to stay there with her no more because I got in a fight, and she said if I got in a fight or messed up with them, I had to go back home with my parents. I told my baby daddy I don't want to go home tonight. Like, what are we gonna do? I just don't want to go back home. I don't want to go back home at all, but I have to. So can we do something? Maybe I could stay at your house the night. And he was like, yeah, sure. So we ended up leaving. We go all the way to Cebolleta. We're driving to Cebolleta. And as we get there, we are passing the panny tree. There's a panny tree, I think, to like the right if you're driving north. And there's like a tree with all kinds of panties on there. I guess people stop, do their thing, you know, and they just leave their panties there on the tree. So anyways, we stop there and we just like look around or whatever, and we end up driving all the way to Portales. And when we get into Portales, we're just sitting there and the car's off and we're just talking and stuff and hanging out. And all of a sudden I hear a weird noise, okay? And it's dark. So I'm like, oh my goodness, take off. Just put the car in drive and take off. Oh my goodness, someone's coming, I think. I don't know, I heard someone. I heard a voice. And so he takes off, madres, and we take off, you know, and we go. And we're coming back, we're flying back to Albuquerque. So we get back to Albuquerque and we go back to his place. He lived with his mom and dad. They weren't together, they were divorced. And she still lived with her husband, her ex-husband. So yeah. So we end up getting there and they're wondering, what is he doing with me, you know, there. And so he explains to them everything that's going on. And they're like, well, how old is she? And he's like 15. And then he's 18, I think. We're like 3 years apart, 16, 17. Yeah, he's 18 years old. And so they're like, well, you're going to get in trouble. And if they call the cops on you, you're going to be in really big trouble. So you need to take her home. And he's like, well, she doesn't want to go home. So can she stay here the night? They said, yeah, but tomorrow you have to take her home. So he was like, okay. And I was happy with that. I was good with that. So we ended up staying the night there that night. And the next day I went back home. So we're hanging out, living life. Life's going on. Well, we go to a party and we're drinking, me and my baby daddy. And we're at this party and we're drinking. I get buzzed, you know, I don't get too drunk because I was so scared to get drunk anytime. I mean, after I got date raped. So we're partying, we're drinking, you know, we're having a good old time. I get home, we get back to my parents' house, and I tell him I'm in the restroom and I'm peeing it, and I feel my stomach like jiggling and moving, real weird, right? And I'm like, babe, come here. I don't know, my stomach's moving. Don't you see it moving? And he looks at my stomach and he's like, yeah, it's moving. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is up? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, and I was like, I think I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. Look, and the baby's moving in there. And I would be like, that's too soon to tell, right? You know? And he's like, I don't know, but I think you are pregnant. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I'm 15 years old. I'm already struggling, okay? And now I may be pregnant? Fuck no. Like, no, this cannot be happening to me, you know? So we just go about our business again. And I was like, shit, what am I gonna do? I'm not telling my parents, because that's just something you do not do. We're not telling them. Zip, zero, lips are sealed, okay? So my friend and her sister and me think we're all pregnant. So we go to Planned Parenthood, we take the test. The test comes back and it's positive. And I'm like, no, this is not happening, you know. This is not true. Like, this has to be a mistake, right? And she was like, no, pretty positive you're pregnant. And I was like, oh shit. She's like, I'm pretty positive you're pregnant. And I was just like, shit, you know, like, what am I gonna do? I'm young, you know? I never thought I would get pregnant. I never wanted kids at a young age. I didn't even talk about kids ever, really, when I was little. So I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? Okay, well, I know that I'm not telling my parents. So call baby daddy, and I'm like, guess what? And he's all, what, you're pregnant? And I'm all, yes, it's positive. And he was like, oh my goodness, I told you you were. And I was like, I know, I kind of had a feeling I was. And I was like, so what am I gonna tell my parents? And I was like, no, I'm not telling them. I said, but of course we could tell your parents, you know, you've already had a son, so we could tell them. So we told his mom, his dad, his brother. They were all excited. They were ready to have a granddaughter because they already have a grandson and a nephew. So now they want a niece and they want a granddaughter. So she takes me to the store and buys me all kinds of maternity clothes. And I'm 95 pounds, 98 pounds. So I'm like, I'm not going to be showing for a very long time. So I don't ever really have to tell my mom. She'll never know until like maybe on 5 months. Then I'll start showing. Then I'll tell her then. And they were just like, well, you should just tell them because they should know. And I was like, okay, well, I'll tell them. But I don't think I'm going to tell them right now because I'm not ready to. So they were fine with it. We go living life again, you know. Me and my sister were really tight when we were young, me and my oldest sister, but I still wasn't going to tell her. I thought my sister would tell my parents, so I didn't tell her nothing either. I'm back home, I'm living with my parents, and I'm going to Valley High School for my summer year because I missed and didn't finish my freshman year, so because I dropped out. So I'm going to summer school to catch that credit up. So I'm pregnant at this time, and we start planning a trip to Red River. So I don't know how many months I am at the time, but we planned a trip to go to Red River. We always went to Red River with our church people. We went with our family, our friends, you know, from church, my parents and whatever. So I had asked one of my friends from school to go with me, and my parents said she could go. So she was going. My mom and dad went, and my dad's brother went with his wife and his 3 kids. He invited a couple from his work, which is husband and wife. So they went with us as well. So we all go to Red River, okay? So we leave and we get to Red River. Our parents went out for the night. They were at the bars drinking, having a blast, dancing, whatever they were doing, okay? So me and my sister, all my cousins are there, and we're in the motel or the cabin while our parents are at the bar. So I don't know what happened, but me and my sister started fighting. Don't know what reason, why we started fighting, but we did. So my friend knows I'm pregnant. My sister don't know I'm pregnant. So my sister kicks me in the stomach. So my friend sticks up for me and gets in her face and is like, why did you hit her? Why did you do that to her? Don't you know she's pregnant? And she just blurts it out of her mouth, right? And I'm just like, shucks, what am I gonna do? And she says, you stupid jota. Well, that's not what you call any stud back in the day at all, ever. So my sister just clocked her fist back and boom, punched her in the nose, broke her nose. And her nose is gushing out blood, gushing, and it doesn't stop for nothing. The blood doesn't stop, it's just pouring. And we're like, shit, what are we gonna do? We need to go get our parents from the bar. So me and my cousin and everybody, we're all running out there and trying to find them at all the bars, and finally we find them, and we're like, oh my goodness, my friend's nose is broken. We need you back at the cabin. So they're like, why? What happened? Why did your sister hit her? And I'm like, I don't know. They were fighting and she said something and my sister hit her. So I'm like, oh shucks. So my aunt and everybody get there, and the guy that, my uncle's friend that was there, he knew how to break her nose back into place, right? So he tells her, this is gonna hurt, this is gonna be painful, you're gonna hear it. And so I'm like trying to cover my ears because you hear the pop. You know, that noise, you know? So he pops it back into place, and once it gets back into place, she's crying because she's still in pain, you know? I feel so bad. Like, I wish it was me instead of her, you know, but I was pregnant at the time, so my aunt was like, why did your sister really hit her? And I'm like, because everybody knew that my sister wouldn't just hit someone just to hit someone unless you really pissed her off, you know? So I told my aunt, I was like, I don't know, they were just fighting. And she was like, no, there just has to be something else why she did that. And I was like, well, I don't want to tell you, and I still don't want to tell you, but okay. I said, I'm pregnant, so my friend was sticking up for me, and that's why this happened. And I was like, but please don't tell my parents. I was like, please just keep this between me and you. And she's like, well, I have to tell them. And I was like, no, you don't. And she's like, yeah, I do. And so I didn't want her to. And she was like, well, if they don't want to accept you, if they don't want to help you out with the baby, you could stay with me and your uncle. And I was like, oh, okay, you know? So she ends up telling my parents that I'm pregnant. And they don't say nothing. They stay really quiet. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, do you want her? You know, if you guys don't want to put up with her, or you guys don't want her living with you, she could always come and stay with me and, you know, your brother. And my mom and dad were like, no, we're fine. You know, she's pregnant. It's whatever. Wow. They were just saying that for then, you know. They were just saying that for now. Anyways, until the drive back home. So my uncle, I think it was this night or it was another night. I think maybe it was another night, but I guess you live what you learn, because my dad, his brother, they used to hit their wives, and I didn't understand why they would do that unless they seen their parents doing that. So I figured that maybe they seen their parents doing that. Anyways, one day we were at Red River and I don't know what was going on, and my uncle just kicked my aunt like 4 or 5 times in the ribs, and I think broke them or almost broke them. She was crying and she was in pain, and I freaked out because I never seen that, you know. I never seen that, and I never thought my uncle was like that. But fast forward to, my friend doesn't talk to me. She doesn't talk to me she doesn't talk to me on the drive back home, and I'm like scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is her mom? What is her gonna say? What is her family gonna say? Her sisters, you know? I know all her sisters, you know, we were really close to all of them. I'm like, oh my goodness, how sad, you know? Like, and I felt so bad because she was defending me and her nose got broken for it, you know? So I felt bad. We drive back home, we drop her off, and I don't know if my sister was with us at the time or what, or if she remembers this, but my mom, my dad called me every name in the book. They were so pissed off. My mom was like, what am I going to tell your family? What am I going to tell my family? I mean, oh my goodness, you're 15, you're not even married. You had a baby out of wedlock, because back in those days, you don't do that either. Like, the culture was you get married, you lose your virginity, and you have a baby. So I didn't do it that way, right? I'm 15 and I'm pregnant. So people are gonna be talking, oh my gosh, people are gonna be talking about her. Oh my gosh, she's pregnant. What are we gonna do? You know, like, who cares? I thought, who cares? I'm like, who cares what your family has to say? I'm keeping the baby. The baby's mine. So whatever they have to say, they have to say. I'm gonna raise my kid and take care of my kid. So my dad was just like, well, how your baby daddy doesn't even take care of the son that he has now, much less take care of this baby too. Every time you guys are out or whatever, he's never with his kid. His kid's always with his mom. And I'm like, well, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be able to raise this baby, you know. Let's fast forward to the trauma that happened to me. I don't know what was wrong with my mom too much, and I don't know why this happened, but it was someday. I don't know how many months I was. I don't know how big I was. I'm trying to like think back, but I can't get that picture in my mind. But my mom ended up kicking me in the stomach. And my reaction was to choke her. So I'm choking her and I have her choking up against the wall. And my dad rushes in the door and he's like, what's going on? Why are you choking her? And I told him what happened. And he's like, well, let her go. She's turning purple. And I was like, okay. So I let her go, you know, and I guess she fell to the floor and I left, and I was just so angry. I was just like, how can someone do that when you know I'm 15 years old and I'm carrying a child, another human being, you know? So I hated her. That's where the hatred started. But it doesn't get worse until later on that something else happens, you know? So I start hitting my mom, you know? Not too bad yet. But I start hitting her, and I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't really talk to her. I tried to avoid her as much as I could. I don't know what happened to her or what was going through her mind, but I just knew that we were close when I was young and we were tight. I was always on her hip, you know, like she was the most loving, caring mother anybody could want or have, you know. She would always hug us. She would always tell us she loved us. That was the best friend, the best mom, your best friend that you can have when you were a child. But I'm 15 now. Things are different now. I don't think she's that loving mother anymore, you know. So there was an incident that happened, and I was fighting with baby daddy at the time. I don't know, we got in an argument and he was leaving and I wanted to get his attention. So the dum-dum that I am, I start punching or hitting the window, right, in the kitchen. So I break the window and my forearm gets on the window and it's on the glass, and I have to like yank it off. And I have a scar right here. I had to get 3 stitches here. And then the glass, I don't know if you could see it. And then the glass is right here. So I pull out my arm and I'm calling baby daddy, and I'm like, he's just like down the street. I don't even know how far he gets, not that far. And I'm like, guess what? I just cut my arm on the window. I need you to come back, because I don't have a car at this time. So he's like, okay, be right there. So he turns around and he gets down and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I just got it stuck on the window there because I was trying to get your attention, and it broke the window and my arm got stuck on it, I said, and it doesn't want to stop bleeding. So he wraps it around, and my mom gets home before my dad, I guess. At the time, that I think so, he hadn't got home, my dad. So my mom is like concerned about her window, guys. Like, she's not concerned about her pregnant daughter that just got cut. She's worried about her window. So all I needed to hear her is crying about her window. So I just grabbed her by her hair and I start punching her and punching her and punching her. And I'm like, how can you be worried about your window instead of worrying about your daughter? And my baby daddy is like, stop, stop. And then he grabs me and my arm, the blood is just gushing out like a waterfall. So he wraps it around with a bandana and he gets it there, and we're going to the emergency room. And talking about bandanas, my nails are bandanas. Just don't mind these ones. This one broke and then this one broke today. So anyways, we go to the emergency room and they're digging and digging out the glass, and I'm screaming because I hate needles. I hate getting stitches. I hate being in that kind of pain. I hate needles, you know, like I'm crying. And he's like, is this how you're gonna be when you have the baby? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. Never had a baby before, you know. They give me 3 stitches and I go back home. And I just want to tell you guys, te amo muchísimo.